Okay, so, today we're going deep on something that I think is going to be, well, super interesting for a lot of you. It's about, like, the signs that you might just be wired for a really long life.
Yeah, this should be fun.
Yeah, someone sent us this article, and it's called If You're 65, 80 and Can Still Do These Things, You Might Be Destined for 100. And honestly, it's kind of amazing.
It really is.
It's like they've, cracked the code a little bit, looking at what people in that age group, so 65 to 80, what they
Mm.
can still DO. That might mean they're, on track to hit 100.
I think the listeners are going to love this one.
Totally. And we really want to, break it down today, go through each of the things they point out in this article and really figure out why they matter so much. Like, what is it about these specific traits that makes them so important for living a long life?
Right. Because they say in the piece that, yeah, your genes matter, of course, but it's really your daily choices, the stuff you do every day, that's like the real key to longevity.
Yeah, it's about more than just, not getting sick. It's about, really living well for a long time.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And what I really like about this article is that it's not just about avoiding illness.
Right.
It's about looking at the positive signs,
Mhm.
the things that people who are already thriving in those later years are actually doing. It's really refreshing.
Yeah, totally. So the article has these five key areas that they say are really telling for those of you listening who are, between 65 and 80.
Okay, sounds good. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's dive in. So number one is physical agility.
Okay.
And this isn't about running marathons in your 70s or anything crazy like that.
No, no, no.
It's really about the article highlights those everyday things you do, can you bend down to pick something up?
Sure.
Can you carry groceries without struggling? Can you go for a brisk walk or climb a flight of stairs without feeling like you need to sit down for an hour?
Right.
Even something as simple as can you touch your toes?
Yeah, it sounds basic.
It does, but the article really stresses that this fundamental, being able to move your body easily,
Yes.
it's a really big deal when it comes to reaching 100. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what makes this kind of basic physical ability such a strong indicator?
Well, what's fascinating to me is the connection the article makes between being able to move freely and your overall health.
Okay.
They talk about, for you listeners, a reduced risk of heart problems, of
Yeah.
cardiovascular issues.
Wow.
And even get this, they say it might actually slow down how fast your cells age,
Hmm.
which is, pretty profound when you think about it. It's
Yeah.
like if you can move easily, if your body's cooperating, that's a sign that things are working pretty well under the hood.
It's like a sign that you're healthy overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they actually reference some research here.
Okay.
A study from the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity.
Right.
And it found that seniors who stay active, they tend to have less inflammation in their bodies,
Right.
which we hear so much about these days.
They do, yeah.
And their immune systems, they seem to be stronger, more resilient.
That makes sense.
And, chronic inflammation, that's linked to a lot of the problems that come with age, right? So maintaining that ability to move easily, that's like an early warning system
Oh, interesting.
for how healthy you are overall.
So it's not just about, living longer.
Right.
It's about living better.
Exactly.
And being able to actually enjoy those extra years because you can still do the things you love.
Exactly. Imagine, being 80, 90, even 100,
Mhm.
and still being able to travel, to garden, to play with your grandkids, all because you've kept your body moving.
That's amazing. The article actually has a practical tip for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they suggest things like yoga, tai chi,
Oh, nice.
even some, light weights, resistance training,
Makes sense.
just to help you, maintain that muscle mass and that coordination.
Right, because it's about preserving that physical
Mm.
ability. I like to think of it as, your physical capital.
Yeah.
And if we connect that back to the listener,
Mhm.
maintaining that mobility,
Mm.
it's not just about potentially adding years to your life.
Yeah,
It's about making those years really count.
I love that. It's about quality of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to number 2 on the list, mental acuity.
Okay, mental acuity. So we're talking about brains now.
Yeah, brains. But this is not just about being a whiz at crossword puzzles or winning on Jeopardy or something.
Right, right.
It's more about, the article describes it as, really being open to learning new things.
Okay.
Like really embracing new skills, taking on challenges that make you think.
I like that.
Getting into, creative stuff, like
Yeah.
maybe you've always wanted to learn a new language
Yeah.
or take up painting or even just finally figure out how to use all the features on your smartphone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right. And the article makes this point that I thought was so interesting that like mental agility is almost more important than avoiding cognitive decline altogether.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it kind of suggests that some decline is like normal
Right. Like it's part of life,
as we age.
but it's about staying active, right?
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
I think it's a really crucial distinction for our listeners.
Yeah.
Because it acknowledges that, yeah, our brains change as we get older.
Right.
But it's not a free fall. It's not like everything just goes downhill.
Right.
What matters is how we engage with our brains.
Okay.
And the source here, they mentioned a really cool study from the New England Journal of Medicine
Okay.
that found that seniors who were intellectually active, always learning new things, challenging themselves,
Uh-huh.
they might actually delay dementia
Oh, wow.
by 5 to 8 years.
That's huge.
Think about that.
Yeah.
5 to 8 more years of like really living your life to the fullest.
That's incredible.
And it all comes down to this amazing thing called neuroplasticity.
Oh.
The brain's ability to like rewire itself, to form new connections, even as we age.
Yeah.
And the article says that challenging your brain regularly, it's like building up a reserve, a cognitive reserve,
Okay.
making your brain stronger and more resilient to those changes that come with age.
So it's like working out your brain.
Exactly. It's like mental fitness.
Yeah.
And they give some really practical tips, like brain games, reading, even taking a class at your local community college.
Oh, cool.
Anything that sparks your curiosity.
I love that.
Because curiosity, that's like fuel for your brain.
That's food for thought, right?
Exactly. It keeps those neural pathways firing, keeps your brain sharp and adaptable. And it makes me think, for you listening, what are you doing regularly that really challenges your mind, that makes you think in new ways?
That's a great question. It makes you realize, like, we have so much control over how our brains age.
We really do.
All right. So moving on to the third indicator, and this one is something I feel really strongly about.
Okay.
Joyful social connections.
Oh, I like this one already.
Yeah, me too. The article talks about, having close friends, people you actually enjoy spending time with,
For sure.
getting involved in, like, volunteering for a cause you believe in,
Yeah.
joining groups, anything that gives you that sense of purpose and belonging.
And keeps loneliness away.
Right. Because loneliness is a real problem.
It is, especially as we age.
So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this. Like, what's the science behind this? Why are these connections so important for longevity?
Well, the evidence here is actually quite overwhelming.
Okay.
The article mentions the Harvard Study of Adult Development,
Right.
which has been running for like decades.
Wow.
And they've consistently found that strong, positive relationships are the single biggest predictor of a long and healthy life.
Really? That's amazing.
It's not just diet, it's not just exercise.
Right.
It's the quality of your connections with other people.
That's so powerful.
It is. And they also talk about how social engagement, it helps to lower those stress hormones that can be so harmful in the long run.
Right.
And it boosts your emotional resilience, your ability to bounce back from challenges.
That makes sense.
And they even connect it to the blue zones research.
Oh, yeah.
Those areas around the world where people live the longest.
Right.
And one of the common threads they found is that centenarians in those communities, they have incredibly strong social ties.
So it's not just about, like, avoiding loneliness.
Right.
It's about actively, like, strengthening your health through these relationships.
Exactly. It's like your relationships are actually medicine.
Wow. I love that. So what would you say, like, practically, what can people do to cultivate these connections?
Well, the article has some good advice. Join clubs, find things you're interested in,
Whoa.
and meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
Consider mentoring someone, sharing your knowledge and experience, and even just making that effort to stay in touch with the people you care about.
Yeah, pick up the phone, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Because those regular interactions, they provide a sense of belonging, of support, of purpose,
Right.
which are all essential for your mental and emotional health.
Absolutely.
And as we've seen, those are deeply intertwined with your physical health as well.
It's all connected.
It is.
All right, on to number 4, and this one might surprise some people.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
Optimism.
Optimism. Okay, yeah.
The article describes it as, like, being able to go through life's ups and downs with a sense of humor and grace,
Sure.
and focusing on what you're grateful for, rather than, dwelling on the negative stuff.
It's like choosing to see the glass half full.
Exactly. But what's so interesting is that it's not just some feel-good advice.
Right.
There's actual science backing this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The article mentions studies in PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and they found that people who are more optimistic, they actually live longer.
Oh, wow.
Like significantly longer. They say it could be anywhere from 11 to 15% longer lifespans.
That's pretty remarkable.
It is. And they think it's because optimism helps to reduce chronic stress.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which, we've already talked about how damaging that can be.
Right.
And they even mentioned that a lot of centenarians, they seem to share this trait of, like, not sweating the small stuff.
It's like they've figured out what really matters.
Exactly. It makes you think about how much time we waste worrying about things that, in the grand scheme of things, aren't that important.
It really does.
Mm.
So any practical tips for cultivating more optimism?
Yeah, the article suggests practicing mindfulness, like meditation,
Okay.
or keeping a gratitude journal where you write down things you're thankful for each day.
I like that.
Just ways to, like, shift your perspective over time.
Yeah, to train your brain to focus on the positive.
Yeah, and it's not about ignoring the bad stuff. It's about choosing how you respond to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what strikes you most about this connection between optimism and longevity?
For me, it's just so amazing how powerful our minds are. Like, our thoughts can literally impact how long we live.
It's pretty incredible.
It is. Okay, so last but not least, number 5 on the list is wise eating.
Wise eating. All right, I'm all ears.
And, this isn't about some crazy diet or, like, restricting yourself all the time.
Good, because those never work.
Exactly. This is about making, like, smart, sustainable choices.
Okay.
The article emphasizes eating whole, unprocessed foods.
Makes sense.
Lots of vegetable.
Like real food.
Yeah, real food. Lots of color on your plate. Legumes, nuts.
Sounds familiar.
Right. And it's interesting because this is really similar to what people eat in those blue zones we talked about earlier.
Oh, right, the Mediterranean diet, Okinawa.
Yeah, exactly. Places where people are known for living long, healthy lives.
So there's definitely something to it.
Right. So I'm curious, from a scientific standpoint, why is this way of eating so beneficial for longevity?
Well, the article explains that these kinds of foods, they're packed with nutrients.
Okay.
Vitamins, minerals, all those good things our bodies need.
Right.
And especially antioxidants, which help protect your cells from damage.
Oh, right.
And they mentioned a study in The Lancet, which is a very reputable medical journal.
Wow.
And they found that people who ate mostly plants, they had a 20% lower risk of dying from any cause.
That's huge.
It is. So for our listeners, it's really about giving your body the fuel it needs to thrive in the long run.
So it's not about deprivation, it's about nourishment.
Exactly. It's about choosing foods that support your health and vitality.
I love that. And the article has some simple tips for this too.
Oh, good.
Make sure you're getting enough variety in your diet.
Yeah.
Aim for lots of color on your plate, different fruits and vegetables.
Makes sense.
Stay well hydrated.
It's so important.
And even, try to eat with other people whenever you can.
Oh, I like that.
Because that brings in that social connection piece we talked about.
It all ties together.
It really does.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap things up, the article does a really nice job of summarizing everything.
Okay.
They say that while genetics are a factor, your lifestyle choices are really what determine how long and how well you live.
It's empowering, isn't it?
It is. It puts you in control.
Yes.
And they encourage people who are already doing these things to keep it up.
Good.
And for those who aren't, they say it's never too late to start.
Absolutely.
And they have this great quote from this 103-year-old pianist, Irving Fields.
Oh, I love him.
And he says, "The secret to long life, keep breathing and keep playing."
So good.
Right. But they also have a little disclaimer. They say that, longevity isn't guaranteed.
Of course.
And that it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor.
Yeah. For personalized advice.
Right, because everyone's different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really crucial point for our listeners.
Absolutely. So as we, wrap up this deep dive today, I think the big takeaway is that living a long life isn't just about avoiding death.
Right.
It's about really living fully.
It's about vitality.
Yes. And that means, staying physically active, keeping your mind sharp, having those strong social connections,
Yeah.
cultivating that optimistic outlook, and nourishing your body with good food.
I love how the article presents aging not as this passive decline, but as an active, ongoing opportunity for growth.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
It is.
It really is. So I'd love to hear from you listeners as you think about these 5 areas we've talked about today.
Yeah.
Your physical agility, mental acuity, those joyful social connections, your optimism, and your eating habits. Which ones resonate most with you?
That's a great question.
And are there any, small changes you could make in your daily life?
Maybe inspired by the tips from the article.
Exactly,
All
because
right.
even those small changes over time can make a big difference.
They really can. It's about those consistent choices day after day.
Yeah. And the article says that even focusing on 1 or 2 of these areas can really, like, shift the odds in your favor.
It's a great reminder that we have more control over our health and longevity than we often realize.
We really do. Well, this has been such a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. And for those of you who want to learn more, you can always check out the original article.
Yes, and do some research on your own.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep living those long, healthy lives.
I like that.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.